A big welcome to the Exit Ready Business Podcast, where we will discover how to become exit ready. Did you know that last year only 14% of business listed for sale actually sold? But commercial property auction clearance rates consistently hit 60 to 80%. Here's the hard truth. Your business might not be sellable at the moment, but your office, your commercial building or your warehouse is a goldmine. So welcome to the Exit Ready Business Podcast. I'm Mr. Exit Ready, David Fisher. I'm a licensed real estate agent with 45 years experience in construction and property. Today, we're applying the principles of the Sales Acceleration Certified Sales Management Operating System to help make your business part of the 14%. Today I'm sitting down with Rick Wong about business development and sales. Rick isn't just talking theory, he's lived the reality in Australia and New Zealand with some very large corporations like Optus and Honeywell in the world of space, satellites, aerospace, and that's a few things that we're going to talk about. The core of everything Rick has done in his business development has always been about sales strategies and growth. Rick, a big welcome to the show. Could you share your stories from where you started and how you landed up where you are now?
Thanks, David, and appreciate the invitation to join your podcast. I've been in sales or sales leadership roles for over 30 years. I started out in the motor industry. I worked in there for a number of years where we imported and distributed European cars, trucks and buses. That's probably where I started understanding a lot about what customers' needs were versus what products we had available. The real sales training, I suppose, came in when I got into the FMCG sector. I went into an organisation that's called Energizer Battery Company. They were called the Everready Battery Company. FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, anything that's sold in supermarkets. A fantastic basis of training to work from there. So probably the first global organisation I worked for. I found that in the supermarket sector or the FMCG sector, it's pretty hard yakka and you're dealing with some pretty challenging characters out there. I managed to get myself into a different area which was called research or market research. I worked for an organisation called AC Nielsen that helped me understand how the sales were monitored from a scan data perspective. Therefore, I was learning both sides of the fence there on the FMCG sector. Then I got into an organisation called Creative Field Marketing. We recruited, trained and managed sales teams on an outsourced basis. So I would put teams in place for people like Microsoft, Vodafone, Nokia mobile phones back in the day, and others. It led me through to another tech company called ePay. That was a disruptive technology where we moved the scratch cards for prepaid top-up phones. You might remember prepaid top-ups, they had scratch cards. We removed those physical cards out of the marketplace and we put the electronic top-up system in today. So essentially it's like an FPOS terminal that's in there and you get an electronic pin being sort of drawn out of the FPOS terminal. So that's what we did back in the early 2000s. But that led me to an opportunity to go and work for the machine-to-machine communications sector, where I worked for an organisation where we designed and manufactured 3G, 4G modems for M2M purposes. Part of that was in the satellite sector. Then Honeywell Aerospace came along, and because we were selling aftermarket upgrades for SATCOM on aeroplanes, that was an intro there. And then to space, I worked for Optus Satellite, and that was basically one of the last jobs that I had before I set myself up as an advisor, sales acceleration and focused business development advisor.
Well, that's a bit of a journey. So from the motor industry to satellites, Microsoft Teams and space and aerospace and all the rest of it, I think we've probably missed a few things along the line. If we could go a little bit deeper, even starting with those sales teams that you work with, say for example in Microsoft and a range of other different companies, it just gives our audience a little bit of an understanding that the possibilities, some of them might only have one or two people, or even themselves, it's just they do all the sales. How can you give them some advice that you've gone from the very big companies to how you could help them sort of align? What could they do in their space?
Well, a couple of these organisations that I worked for, they were startups. When I worked for ePay and Creative Field Marketing, ePay being the top-up company and Creative Field Marketing, the outsourced sales agency, I was 0.5 headcount in both those organisations. So I was representing both of those organisations at the same time. And I guess the reality is that unless you have a process or unless you have a system, rather than flying by the seat of your pants, things are difficult. By following a particular process along the way that I've learned, and through Sales Acceleration, my affiliation with Sales Acceleration, I've now adopted a certified sales operating management system. If you're trying to fly by the seat of the pants, you might make it, you might get lucky, but somewhere along the line you're going to need a system, a process to simplify things.
And the other part, if you're flying by the seat of your pants, that's a very stressful way to do it, isn't it? Because every time you're thinking, oh, what do I say, what do I do, isn't it?
100%.
Like I look at it that I use a sales CRM system. Obviously got a marketing one, which is different. And I can just look at everything on that and I can track it. But before I did that, it was like, oh, I've wrote something in a book here and something, I couldn't track anything. And it was a disaster, really. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of a cliche, it's a very old one, but I mean, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail ultimately, isn't it?
Absolutely. So on that part, then you started into the communication sector, the satellites and all that type of thing. I know it's not a normal type of thing that everyone talks about, but obviously those satellites were the communication link, weren't they?
Yes. Communication links, be they for communications for, as we're talking now, or it could be broadcasts for TV, or it could be something more secretive, such as government communications.
Yeah. So today, do you think in that sector, like they're talking about putting things up in space, there's going to be more and more of that satellite space to actually keep up with AI? Do you think that would be a fair comment in that sort of area?
Look, I guess at the end of the day, there's stuff that's been going on and is up there now that you and I would have thought are just not possible, right? I mean, the way that I sort of see it is it's almost like the old Star Trek days when you see the Starship Enterprise shooting lasers. Those lasers were there for destruction in the TV programs, but that's not to say that those lasers today wouldn't be there for destruction, but generally speaking they're there for comms. But of course there's many other things that are up there that we're looking at, or they have been looking at. Some of these things would be being able to communicate and alter things with the satellites and spacecraft that are up there from the ground, whereas historically once a satellite went up there it just did its thing, it was almost dumb, and it just sent the comms down. But yeah, all this technology is getting smarter and smarter. Yeah,
so really we could be, as a lot of our listeners are on the road, they're in that transitional phase, and some of them are going to start running a business possibly as they start driving around Australia in their caravan, so they could actually use that satellite service, couldn't they?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean that the OneWeb stuff, the Amazon stuff, the Starlink stuff, that's all up there now, and you can use that.
So in this sort of thing, there's no limitations for where you are. What we're saying here is you could run a business anywhere in Australia or anywhere in the world, to be quite honest, as long as you've got internet. And part of that process is satellites. Part of that process is that what we can do with all of that, and there's no real limitation to where you are. You can move around the world, enjoy your discovery journey as you start transitioning from what's your core part of your business to maybe start letting some of that go. You can still be part of the day-to-day operations while you're driving around, for example, in your caravan in the middle of the Australian desert.
Of course, 100%.
But the key to that, we'll just go back, let's dive a little bit on your systems that you've got. Obviously, one that you've got here, which is abbreviated to the CSMOS. Could you go a little bit deeper on what you do with that operating or sales operating management system?
So that's a certified sales operating management system. I'm a licensee to Sales Acceleration. Sales Acceleration is a international sales advisory organization. So we've got advisors like myself present in Australia, the US, Canada, and the UK. There's probably 200 odd of us around the world. What the Sales Acceleration Certified Sales Operating Management System is a sales process. It's a sales system. It's a structure that normally reserved for corporates. Whenever you go to a corporate, these corporates have these processes and systems where us as people, we don't really matter. As long as they've got people to sit in the seats to turn those cogs, those systems will work. Now what we're able to do is actually bring such a system that's normally reserved for corporates and bring it into a small to medium enterprise environment, which means that the owners and the operators of those organizations, they can start working smarter as opposed to harder. There's a process to follow, and they're able to work with the end in mind.
Oh, that's brilliant. So really, for our listeners, there's no excuse, because like you say, where that was very much only available to the big players like the Microsofts and the Optuses and different ones that you've worked with, this is a system that's available to the small to medium-sized business.
Yeah.
So
and scalable, meaning that you can have 0 salespeople today. You might be looking to scale the business, but prior to going in and scaling that business, you put a system like this in place so that as you bring in the sales team, as you bring in the people, there's a system for them to work on. They've already got the system to play with, as opposed to bringing somebody on board, creating a system, then actually having to retrospectively, fill in the dots, or fill in the blocks or the boxes with the system that has to be retrofitted in some cases. So in many cases, it's if you're starting out, if you want a system to go and work with moving forward, that's going to provide you with scalable growth, then do it sooner than later.
Exactly. So it's a system that's already created. That's the key to it. So most of the times we're trying, if you're going back, fly by the seat of your pants or trying to work on this. What Rick's got here is a system. You don't have to create the system. He's already got the system. It's proven. Got 200 people around the world. It's worked as far as in the big corporates. Now it's available to everyone else. So you don't have to invent the wheel, as they say. Is that correct?
Yes. So this system has been used in over 6,000, maybe 6,500 organizations throughout the world. 90% of those organizations experience growth in the first year, and that growth is on average, I believe it's 32%, but I pretty much just say 30% growth in the first year. So it's very well proven. We're not advisors in the sense that we're going to say, right, we suggest, David, you do this and you do this and think about that. I will actually help business owners implement. I do the implementation for them. So both a strategic and a tactical solution. That means that the owners are able to go away and carry on running their business and other parts of the business, things that they need to work with, whilst I will manage the sales infrastructure in that process for the time being.
Oh, that's great, because a lot of people provide software systems. Obviously, there's the AI things, and everyone, you can do all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But the biggest problem is they give you the tools, but you don't know how to drive them, as they say.
That's right.
So the great thing, if you're listening there, is that Rick actually does that heavy lifting. You can get on with what you're good at while he puts those in place. What do most people, where's the starting point for that? Like, later on we can go through that where we'll put a link on the show notes and all the rest of it. But what would be a typical, because most people say, oh my gee, where do I start? What would be a typical journey for someone that would come to you? Not naming names or anything like that, but a journey. They come, they have an onboarding call, whatever the process is, but a brief process of what to do and what would they see and implement, even though you're doing that process. What would they see in their business?
So before engaging me, what they would probably see is a struggle to get new sales revenue into the business. They could have plans to grow, but they're not sure how to grow. Or it could be that they've had a fairly consistent level of revenue over the last number of years. Let's say it's flatlining, right? Any business that's flatlining, unless it's by design, and not many of them will do that by design, but any business that's flatlining ultimately is going backwards. So if you're struggling, or if you got concerns, you're staying awake at night because of that, because of sales revenue, then you reach out to me, and then we'll sit down and we'll have a conversation. I will likely provide a sales agility assessment. It's a 5-minute assessment that 10 questions, 5 minutes, which the business owner will go through. That'll give a high level insight as to what some of the challenges might be. Using the results of that, we'll sit down and we'll delve a little bit more deeply into what might be causing, or what might be the root cause of some of those challenges. Once we've been able to diagnose exactly what the challenges are, I then provide a prescription or a solution as to what can be done to fix this. And an infrastructure project, just putting in place the process, the systems as such, might take 3 or 4 months, but there could be an ongoing sales leadership requirement depending on the business as well.
I like that. I've obviously been, over all of these years, those 10 questions must tell you, it's like opening up the box, isn't it? And finding out what's lifting up the hood. We'll use that example.
Yep.
And you look inside that motor and you can tell virtually straight away from those 10 questions. Would that be right?
Pretty much. It gives you a high level insight. It gives me an understanding of where to probe a little bit more, just to get to the bottom of it, because these are high level, but clearly from our perspective, if there's a poor score on any one of or all of these 10 questions, then it gives me an idea of some of the key priorities, if you like, that we need to look at.
Yep, no, that's great. And like I say, and then through that process, obviously you start implementing it, but you're then providing sales training.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So through the sales management side of things, if there's a team that's on board, what I would do is identify, in conjunction with business owners, identify what I'd believe to be opportunities to refine, if you like, the sales habits and training opportunities for the sales team. And these are often tailored for each individual. You'll find that, let's say, for example, there's 5 salespeople. Not all of them are going to have the same challenges. So, there's an opportunity to tailor a program that's specifically for each of the salespeople's challenges.
Right. So what you've explained to me is each company is unique and you're creating a solution literally for each one. Is that right? So you've got your fundamentals, obviously.
Yes.
But you're looking at each one. So probably more like where they are now. You know where they have to go. Would that be... Yeah.
Each company is unique, but you find that their challenges are not necessarily always unique. And so why are they unique? It's because the mix of challenges that they have might be different to the next person. You might find that some of them are similar, but some of them are not. Some of them are not the same as the next person. So there's a series of modules and solutions that we'd put in place dependent upon the respective client's needs.
So really what you're doing, like Tony Robbins always talks about, is pattern recognition. you're virtually seeing that over all of these years that you've been in business and sales,
Yes.
that you're seeing these patterns that might be in a whole lot of different industries,
Yes.
but the patterns are still the same, aren't they?
100%, yes. And that's a good point. You bring up the different industries. I don't know how many different industries that I've been across, but FMCG, motor industry, machine-to-machine comms, aerospace, space. My sales principles, within reason, have been the same right across each one of those. And I've been awarded, multiple times, President's Awards and, different recognition awards that you get in sales, multiple times across all these different organizations. And this is just purely because, you're following, within reason, a prescribed approach.
Yeah, I like that. I think this is where, like even myself, you've got industry, what we call standards and procedures and different things that you go through,
Yes.
but still the fundamentals is still supply and demand and all of that type of thing, isn't there?
That's right. And look, a lot of people will turn around and say, well, Rick, you can't help me because you haven't been in the widget industry. Well, no, I might not have been in the widget industry, and I was never in the space industry or the aerospace industry before I got into them. But how it works is that I come to the business with a template, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I talk to the business owners. It's the business owners that know about the widgets. I know about sales. They know about the widgets. We put our heads together, and then we come up with a tailored solution.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Across the board, that's what so you go back, you've recognised patterns, you've got training, you've got those different solutions, and then here we are with templates. So you've obviously talking about templates because those models are the same. It really, once you put the two together, can you go a little bit deeper on those templates? Like, obviously, you modify them. Is it something like it's 80% worked off the template, or what sort of ratios do you work on that?
Look, I don't know if I can put a number on that, actually. It really boils down to the conversation. The framework is always there. I'm going to be asking for people to give me what their value proposition is, as an example. What makes them different to their competitors? Why does it make them different? There's not necessarily a template that says I am better than these people because of my service or what have you. I need to get that from the business owners. And so by taking that, I then put it into my value prop template, if you like, which basically will give you a set of words or a set of key differentiators that we can then use in correspondence and conversation with clients moving forward.
And that's what...
Quite organic.
So that value proposition really is that unique, we'll just say, edge of that business and their owners and management and the likes, isn't it? So
Yes.
you're taking the template, then you're bringing that together.
Yeah.
So if people listening out there, Rick is not taking away any of your magic or edge or he's working together and then plugging in the sales that is obviously weak in your system. Because most people are always chasing, what do you need? I need more leads, I need more sales, I need more closures.
Yes.
It's something I hear every single day.
Yeah.
And you probably, obviously that's why people come to you every single day. And even now with AI, we still have to communicate, don't we? When you've got a big ticket item, we're in communication.
Absolutely, and we adopt AI. We encourage AI. I mean, that's the world we live in. But at the end of the day, sales is still quite a personal thing. I'm going to sit across the table from somebody like yourself, and I'm going to ask you what your challenges are or what your needs are. And there's little nuances that you pick up as human-to-human contact that just cannot be picked up by an AI tool. Sure, you can robotize many things, but in this case, it might help us get to what the solution is, but it won't actually close a deal for you.
Oh, totally. And so a lot of that would go back into that sales training. Do you go through that process of people understanding those sort of fundamentals of sales? Do you have to really peel it back to some people, where it's obviously sales is all about trust, isn't it? So even if we started with the word trust in your sales, if you go a little bit deeper, just even on that part.
Yeah, well, I guess at the end of the day, trust is all about understanding what your client or the customer's needs are. Understanding what their challenges, what their pain points are, and then trying to identify whether we've got a solution that fits. If we don't have a solution that fits, then don't even go there. You're wasting theirs and your time. Right? And if you do a bad deal, you're only going to do it once, because they know that they're not going to give you another opportunity, right? And I live and die by that. You only do a bad deal once. So you've got to build rapport. You've got to build that level of trust. People have to feel comfortable with who they're buying and selling, who they're buying off, and even as a salesperson, you've got to feel comfortable who you're selling to. If for whatever reason you're not that comfortable with that person you're selling to, it might actually disrupt the way that you understand their greater needs. All you want to do is get in and get out, as opposed to, if you're really comfortable with someone, you trust one another, you're going to delve a little bit more deeply and find the solution that really does tailor.
So a lot of that would come back to confidence and what you are presenting to your customer, and I suppose it always goes back to the really identity of the salesperson, doesn't it? Like confidence and identity. What would you list for our listeners? What would you say about those two parts in the sales structure and frameworks?
Confidence. I guess you need to be confident in your product, really understanding the ins and outs of that product, how it was made, what it can be used for, what the quality, what the warranty might look like. What is the buyer really going to get for their money, and are you confident that you can provide that? Again, you only do a bad deal once. The identity, I think that it's a personal thing. To me, that it boils down to me being comfortable in my own skin, being comfortable with the product, and being able to comfortable for us to both present together, right? And then obviously we need to be comfortable with the client. That's, having that identity. Yeah, to me, you choose the type of salesperson you want to be. You could be a good salesperson or not such a good salesperson. I might not be the best salesperson for everyone, and not everyone's cup of tea, but it works out that I'm also a suitable salesperson for many people as well. So, it's the same as any other relationship that you have. Sometimes you get on well, sometimes you don't.
And I suppose part of that is that, as they say, what you are selling. So if you believe in what you're selling, that's going to make a big difference, A, for your identity, and definitely for your confidence. Yes. Would that be a fair comment?
Yes. Or at the very least, be comfortable in understanding what you're selling, and understanding what the benefits of that product or service might be.
You got products where you're talking about the connection between your service and understanding the client, between the salesman and their client as well, but even the products, all that part.
I think a good person generally, right? A good salesperson is going to go out there and understand the circumstances they sit within. And in this case, we're talking about work for a company that's selling a product. I need to understand what this company is about. What are the values? What's the strategy? What's the product set? What's that product going to achieve? I need to understand my client. What does the client need? What do they want? What's their end in mind? What are their non-negotiables? I need to understand me. Is this something that I'm prepared to do? I'm not prepared to do. What am I going to get for it? What am I not going to get for it? What's it going to do for me? I think if we understand its context, if we understand all these different factors, and I'm sure there's others that have just missed out, but if we understand as much as we can about our environment, then I think it makes life easy. If we understand why we're putting in the sales process, it's gonna make it all the more reason as to why we should or shouldn't do it, for that matter.
Like a lot of them say, you can go to university, and we both actually went to Massey University in New Zealand. So when you go, you start there. So that gives you the knowledge, doesn't it? And then life's journey, we start to understand why we did what we did. So obviously I did a degree in valuation and property management. And so I'm still in the process of property as well as businesses. The formulas are slightly different, but until you get on the ground, you don't actually have that understanding, do you?
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people have got a product brochure or something like that, and this is what it does. But until they've actually seen the journey of other customers, what they go through and the pitfalls, where they could virtually say, hey, this product is good for this and this, but not for that. That's part of that understanding, instead of saying, this product does everything.
100%. Look, I guess, I just want to sort of come back to the sales process and the system, and what does it mean for some of your audience out there. If you're considering selling a business, you're considering exiting the business in a period of time, 2, 3, 4 years, by putting in place a sales system and a process that will provide sustainable growth or scalable growth, ultimately it means that your revenue, your turnover is going to increase, which means that when it comes time to sell, you're going to get a much higher dollar value, because you're getting a higher multiple off a higher base. So, I wouldn't leave this to the last minute. If you're planning on exiting in several years' time, now's the time to start thinking about, well, how do we increase the revenue? What are some of the systems and processes that we can put in place to improve the business, which will then give us a better times earning number?
Oh, totally. I'm not gonna put a date to people. I'm going to ask you, Rick, what would be a good timeline for people to start? And obviously the best time to start is always now. It's like, when should you plant a tree? It's like 20 years ago, but I would always say now. But what would you say would be a minimum time if people looking, say, I'm looking in the next X amount of years of selling?
Well, I think an ideal time would be, and look, it really depends on the business. Different businesses are going to have different sales cycles, but just generally speaking, I'm going to put a number around 3 years, right? However, if you don't have 3 years, let's say you only got 12 months, even if you put a process or a system in place today, and in 12 months' time, what you should see is a pipeline starting to fill up. You'll see that there's going to be a higher likelihood of able to close those deals when the time comes. And so this is all, and of course there's a scalable and repeatable process that's in place, which is going to be attractive for a new buyer. So you can put it in place, and in about 12 months' time you'll start seeing results, or maybe even less than that. But you really want to be able to reap the rewards of some of those results, see that increased in revenue, and then be able to get a times earning on that increased revenue.
Great bit of advice there. You have to look at it from a buyer's perspective. If they suddenly see a big increase in the last minute, that's always a concern, because is it sustainable? So if you've only got 12 months, that's all you can put into it. But over that period of time, the 3 years, if they can see year one has gone up, and then steadily, just say for example it's gone up say 20%, year two it's gone up 30%, year three it's gone up say 50% even, they can see that pattern. And I go back to patterns because I use patterns all the time. You can see that pattern increasing steadily, because it's proving itself, isn't it? So if it's only in that 1 year and that's all you've got, I'm afraid from the real estate side, they're going to be suspicious. So it's still good, don't get me wrong, but if it's got legs, most times they're always looking at ideally a 3 to 5 year window, and they're looking at that part. It's just the numbers that they look at that's consistent. You can go back to whether it's in the share market, whatever it is, everyone's looking at a bigger database of what you've got. Like you say, you start seeing pipelines, you can see consistency. It's not like suddenly you get something in, then you fulfill that order, and then before you know it, you got nothing.
And the other part of it is that, when you're dealing with a team that's in there, if you've got a team that's successful after 12, 24, 36 months, the longer they've been successful, then I guess there's going to be an opportunity for the new buyer to keep these people on, right? So if you really have a strong relationship with your staff and you're wanting to let the business go but you don't want to let the staff down, if you've got these systems in place, the chances are is that they're the people that are going to carry the business forward and upwards and onwards with the new owner.
Exactly. So then they're not part of the 86% that literally closed the door. They've had that loyal staff all those years, and they've had to say, I'm sorry, I can't sell my business. And I'm on unfortunately an asset sale. I have to go and start selling up my properties and go through that part, and there's no business. Not necessarily tomorrow, but it really gets down to that. So they land up in the 86%. So you're changing that whole dynamics, aren't you, to a scalable, increased revenue, ideally over 3 years, and then you're filling up your pipeline.
Yes.
And then you can see that consistency throughout. Now you've got what I would call an attractive business.
Correct. And when you're selling to the new buyer or the prospective buyer, there's a very, very clear story as to where you've come from, where you're going to, and you're still on that journey to get there. So, it's like buying a second-hand car. You want to be able to see the service history. You want to have confidence that the car's is in good shape moving forward, and it's not just going to clap out as soon as you've taken possession.
No, exactly. And that's another big part, because as you were saying before, you can, most of the time, you've got this, what I call 100 days handover period, which can be very challenging. So the more systems and different things that you've got in place, you don't have to do that heavy lifting. You're just there to monitor, because you've already done the hard work. And in this case, Rick's actually done the hard work for you, because he's implemented the process. He's trained up your staff, or yourself, or both, and then those staff now actually they don't have to say, oh, do I lose my job? Because that's the first question, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And so now all of a sudden you've got a business that you've had all these loyal staff, and then you can drive past it. Like I sold one of the businesses in New Zealand, and it's still going today, and that was back in 2008. 2007 when I sold out to one of the partners, and it's still going today, and I'm still excited about that, and I keep telling people that. But it does, because it spent all of those years building it up from ground zero, and it's still, I don't know, it's like an emotional attachment still.
You want the legacy to continue, don't you?
Yeah, you do. But it's, even though it's all of those years ago, it's still, I don't know, it goes to your gut. It just feels like, oh, this is exciting. It's still going. And when I go over there, I catch up with Andrew, and it's still a very rewarding. So if you put the heavy lifting in now, look at the rewards that you can get. Honestly, because I'm just going to bring out another quick stat: 75% of people that do sell out of the 14% regret they've sold after 12 months. And most of the time that's related to, they haven't got a purpose or a mission to go to. But a big chunk of it, I was just talking to a guy that had a roller door business, that he was basically, his son was part of it. Then he pulled out, and then he went in opposition to him. And because all of that hard work that they've done for like 25 years, the business was just slowly falling apart because he stopped using their model. And then the son went into his part, and now he felt guilty, but he'd been there for 5 years. He's well and truly past that 2-year period of that he had sort of restrictions of trade. But now it's like, well, you broke the model. And that's another part. Once you've got a system that you bought a business, stick to the model, because that's what you brought, isn't it?
Yes.
But so many people think, I can change this, I can model it. But we're talking at the moment about sales systems. There's a whole lot of other different parts. But Rick has worked out through his this entity that's obviously got 200 other people. It's a proven model. Don't go breaking it. And so if someone else has come in there and they've implemented other parts of your business and your operations, it's really broken down to the operations of your business. And then, of course, you've got the other side, which is your property side. But you've got the two parts. Like this is the hardest part to keep rolling. And the heavy lifting, the hard parts of it is really building that up so it is scalable, so it's attractive. That you can see the revenue, you can see the data. Because everyone says, I want to see the numbers, don't they? And do. You can't lie.
No, numbers don't lie, but I mean, if the numbers are not there, it means that the system's not there.
No. Yep. I like that. If the numbers aren't there, the system's not there. So, you go back, I use the analogy of McDonald's. Doesn't necessarily have the best burger around the place, but it's got the best systems, doesn't it?
Yep.
And of course, millions of them around the world, isn't it?
Yep.
From that whole process. So it's the same model, repeated, and they can't go outside of that framework, can they?
No, and what they've done is they've created a model that's scalable, it's repeatable. So it's exactly what we're looking at doing here with the sales system, creating something that's repeatable and it creates scale.
I've really enjoyed our conversation, and we've covered so much. We've been from the motor industry, the aerospace, the systems, to you name it. Could you just go back like 3 or 4 nuggets, points that for our listeners go away with, just at that point where they think, I need to do something. I don't have a sales system. I don't have any processes in place at all. And I'm looking at selling ultimately in the next 3 to 5 years.
I think if you are working at selling at 3 and 5 years, that's working with the end in mind. Recognizing that you have a challenge of some kind in terms of scalable or sustainable growth is 2. 3, being prepared for change. You yourself, for your business, if you're not prepared to change anything, then it doesn't matter what process or system that's going to be in place, it's not going to work. So you've got to be adaptable yourself as a business owner. And then the last one is just simply reach out and we can talk. I'm happy to set up a call or a face-to-face, whatever's required.
Well, thank you, Rick. And I like, because we didn't cover that part, be prepared for change. But that'll be another time. We can talk about that. But that's a big one, because we have to go and let go of things where there's a lot of different, and it can be quite a stressful period of time. But there will be another podcast on be prepared for change. I'll circle that one. That sounds like a bit of fun. But thank you very much, everyone. So in the show notes, we will put Rick's details for a call with the first thing as he goes through, and he's obviously got those 10 questions, so he can work things out, well, from a high level quite quickly.
Yes.
Whether he can help you. I'm sure he can help everyone, but some people maybe not at that point of wanting to change, but it's a start. And a big thank you to our sponsors, which is Business Exit and Beyond. We really enjoy our time together, and to fellow Kiwis as well, which is even a little bit more exciting, isn't it? So a big thank you, and we'll say goodbye from Business Exit Secret Formula.
Thanks very much, David. All the best. Talk soon.